Caroline, is it true that you have a ticket to Browns Panthers Friday night in Carolina?
That is the truth. You've heard the rumors, and the rumors are true. And never, ever in my life, Fitz, would I have thought that a Cleveland Browns, Carolina Panthers preseason game would be the most interesting game in all of North Carolina, maybe in the entire country, in the entire NFL. But I guess that money talks, and Sheduer Sanders is getting the start for the Browns in that preseason game. So you better believe that I snatched a ticket as soon as I heard that. I mean, that might be the most interesting Carolina Panthers game of the entire season.
Right. I
Is
mean,
watching Sheduer Sanders play in the preseason.
are you not selling that? I'm just saying. Look, I have tickets Thursday night to John Mulaney. I like the comedian. I'm gonna go see him. Right. I bought those tickets for
Love
like
him.
$100, and I looked, and those tickets are going for substantially more than $100 now. And I'm thinking I could sell it, go to the casino. Like, I mean, you got tickets to Shedur's first start. I know it's preseason, but it's Shedur's. Yesterday it was Shedur's fourth on the depth chart. Now it's Shedur's starting for obvious health reasons, a part of why. But he started for the Browns. Like, this is a historic moment. You could get some coin for that.
A historic moment. I might pump the brakes on that just a little bit. We'll see if it ends up being a historic moment. People always say in the preseason, the Hall of Fame game, whatever it might be, people will say, well, football is football. We got to watch it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. I don't know if the Hall of Fame game is really going to be the hottest ticket in town. But in this case, I believe it. Like, this is must-see television. This is one thing that I saw once Shedeur was starting. I thought I have to go to this. It's not just because it's football and football is back, but because this is the most talked about fifth round pick in the history of the NFL. This is Sheduer Sanders, that whether he does something amazing on the field or if he's horrible on the field, if he does nothing or if he does everything, if he's silent or if he talks, it is front page news. It will be the number one topic of conversation across sports media. So yeah, this is must-see TV. And so I snagged a ticket really as soon as this was announced. I thought I have to go watch Sheduer Sanders. I got a ticket for a whopping $12. That's right.
Woo!
$12, everybody. 12
Mhm.
whole smackaroos of my hard-earned money. I just checked this morning to see what the prices would be, just, for S's and G's, to see, am I overhyping this up? Is this just me being a football nerd thinking that the Sheduer Sanders ticket is going to be a hot one? The same ticket that I bought for $12 yesterday is now going for $158. Now, I know that's kind of chump change for like a really big NFL game, but for a preseason game between two teams that absolutely stink, I mean, that's the equivalent of like $100,000, Fitz. I mean, that $158 for a ticket that I paid for less than 12 hours ago, $12? That's crazy.
Mm.
And I think it is indicative that Shedeur Sanders is a superstar. That
Well,
when
yeah,
you
look,
are selling tickets for $160 for a preseason game, that says more about Shedeur Sanders than it does anything else.
you're right. And you have better self control than I do. I'd sell the ticket. But that being said, this is to me the ultimate lose-lose for the Browns. And I know Browns fans are going to get my mentions. They're going to get so mad at me. Let me be clear. I'm not anti-Shedeur. In fact, I'm rooting for Shedeur at this point. I think the narrative has gone so far the wrong way on Shedeur. I would love Shedeur to come in and absolutely crush it. But this is a lose-lose for the Browns because he's going into this game, by the way, in part, as you saw the tweet earlier from Mary Kay Cabot, because the hamstring concerns on two of the four other quarterbacks, they're limited at the position. So now he's starting. You don't want to put Flacco in any sort of a weird risk situation. He's at the top of your depth chart. Like, all of this leads us to Shedeur starting. So now what? If he goes in and he's absolutely terrible, it only feeds everybody that wants to find a reason to hate Shedeur Sanders. So that's negative portion number one. Also, understanding that he's coming off of missing time with the sore shoulder. How many reps has he really gotten with everybody? Like, all of these things are going to make it difficult. Then the other side of it is if he comes in and absolutely crushes it, if he just nails everything you could possibly ask him to nail, Well, now the Browns are going to be in an even worse PR situation where the world is going to expect massive changes to their depth chart based on the limited amount of actual film we're getting on Shedeur. So now all of us sitting in front of a microphone, everybody on Twitter X is going to start just yelling at the Browns about 20 plays, 25 plays that we're supposed to use as more weight than any of the practices. The Browns coaching staff told us everything they needed to tell us about where they think Shedeur is in his process by having him fourth in the depth chart. So nothing has changed in the last 72 hours that's suddenly going to make the coaches catapult him to number one overall. So the problem here is if he's wildly successful, it only builds pressure for suddenly them to make changes he may not be ready for, or they as an organization may not be ready to support. And if he comes out and he sucks, instead of it just being, hey, here's a fifth round quarterback that's trying to work these things out and get better, it's got to be, well, Shedeur's not good enough. Like, this is all such a wild loss for the Browns. If it's anything, like, win or lose, it still loses for popular conversation around Cleveland.
And the fan base just gets, it has a megaphone that all of the conversation becomes magnified. If he does go out there and, let's say, throws for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 picks. And I understand that in the NFL, if you are listening to the fans, pretty soon you will be sitting with the fans. But you are naive to think that that kind of conversation on social media and amongst the fan base and on the first takes of it all doesn't matter inside of a locker room and in front of a front office. And I think that that's the reason why a lot of teams, 31 teams in the league, decided to pass on Sheduer Sanders, because you are damned if you do and you are damned if you don't. Because if Sheduer Sanders invites all of the conversation and maybe the social media circus that comes with Sheduer Sanders, then everyone's going to say, well, what did you expect? That's exactly what happened at Colorado. And if he goes off, if he's incredible, if he's, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks, 350 yards in a preseason game, which I know that sounds dramatic, but stay with me here, then you get the conversation from social media. And if he absolutely stinks it up, then that in and of itself is a topic of conversation. So I think a lot of general managers and front offices looked at the fact that Sheduer Sanders is a lightning rod for conversation, and a lot of people didn't want to sign up for that. Again, he is the most talked about 5th round pick in the history of the NFL. I don't blame a lot of GMs for not wanting to sign up for that lightning rod of a conversation. Yet here we are on Wednesday talking about a preseason game between two of the worst teams in the league happening on Friday, and it's because of Sheduer Sanders.
And to your point, by the way, none of that is Shedeur's fault. Let's, number one, say that whatever the eyes and attention are on Shedeur and however he could have handled things, do you think he's handled his platform any worse than any other kid that's been like, if you go back and watch Spencer Rattler and the reality show he was in that was around high school football years ago, he just came off terrible, right? Like a lot.
Like he was
look,
total ass.
what is Shedeur really done? Like that suddenly makes him the lightning rod for controversy that he is, other than the fact that he's got Sanders as a last name, and that is what it is, right? So I just don't put a lot of this squarely at the feet of Shedeur versus any other quarterback that's had a massive profile, that's had massive cameras in his face his entire life. I think there's a little bit of like, it's a little like when people told me years ago that Taylor Swift wasn't the best adjusted human being. And it's like, what do you expect from somebody that's been having water brought to her since she was 11 years old? I mean, what do you know? Taylor Swift doesn't really understand how the everyman lives. Like Sheduer Sanders doesn't understand what it's like to be a normal kid growing up, because he wasn't a normal kid growing up. But the fact is, the eyeballs are real. And when I worked at ESPN, one of our bosses had a marker board for a wall. And on that marker board, he listed every single topic that you knew, no matter what, was an evergreen. Hey, we got nothing to talk about today. We're going to talk about this. So we're talking about Cowboys, Lakers, Yankees, the A101s of all sports media content. I know for a fact that on that same marker board this year is Sheduer Sanders. And he's a 5th round, he's the 4th quarterback for the Browns. So like the scrutiny he faces, Caroline, I would quickly say it's just, there's nothing he can do about it. I just don't know that he made this bet, even if he's lying in it.
You might even say he's the 5th quarterback in that room after they brought in Snoop Huntley yesterday. I mean, it's the most uninteresting quarterback room that we've talked about more than any other quarterback room in the NFL, and it is because of Sheduer Sanders. Look, it's not Sheduer Sanders' fault that his last name is Sanders, but I'm not going to say that Sheduer Sanders is innocent in all of it. He's made a lot of comments that didn't fall great on the fan base. I remember when he talked about after Colorado lost to Nebraska, he threw his offensive line under the bus. You can't do that. I would say that is his fault. The draft night party and throwing the $100 bills everywhere, that didn't land very well with a big part of the fan base. That's not because his last name is Sanders, but I will say Sheduer Sanders, since he has been drafted into the NFL, since he has put a Browns cap on, a lot of the noise has been from us and from the media. It hasn't been from anything that Sheduer Sanders has done. So I will applaud Sheduer Sanders that the spotlight has never been brighter, and we'll see how he handles it on Friday night.